Sound speeds, and anytime you're shooting in or near water, you need to make sure your gear is properly protected from accidental spills on it or complete submersion. And in this video, I'm going to show you my methods for doing just that. And I'm going to risk it all, just so you're aware. Here's what I mean by that. The audio that you are hearing is coming from this device right here, while the camera is picking me up from there, and it does have an on-camera microphone, so if you ever hear me resort to that, you'll know that my technique failed. And here's how confident I am with my technique here. I'm gonna be unplugging my headphones and not using them to monitor my audio, and part of the reason is because I am securing this with a paper towel so that you can see if there's any water on it as soon as I'm done with this test. The other reason I'm doing it is because I don't want to have to wrap around a headphone connector as well, just in order to show this technique. Now there's a little bit of water from the table because I actually had a spill of this water here when I came over here. But let's go ahead and get with the actual video because my recorder only has 15 minutes of recording time at 4K. Many people will go to Crafty or bring a bag like this and try sticking your transmitter inside of it. The big issue is there's no real good way to wrap it around there, and who's going to trust this? I certainly don't know any sound mixer that would be happy with any kind of result involving a bag such as this. So many people will say go to Crafty and get one of these kind of bags, a Ziploc. And going around a transmitter here, you could still get a pretty good seal across it if you use something like electrical tape around here. But here's the big issue with electrical tape. Electrical tape still has an adhesive on here. So if you're going to wrap this with electrical tape, you're still going to run the risk of the adhesive wearing down due to the water. So here's my solution. And unfortunately, I need to wrap this around again because I did a pretty bad job of securing this to it to begin with. So let's go ahead and wrap this around a little bit more, but all I need to do is have it survive long enough for me to get the press and seal around it. Now press and seal I personally love because, oops, I went the wrong way. Press and seal I love because it grabs whatever you connect it to, and now I have a very annoying bird up there, which I apologize about. I'm going to start over here on this end, grab the press and seal, and start to wrap it around. Now I'm not going to be sparing with it because I want it to work. As soon as I wrap it around once, I'm going to start putting a little bit of tension on it. So I'm now putting a little bit of tension on it as I pull it around. And I'm going to push this end in over here. I'm going to tidy this up a little bit as I continue around. Notice I left it kind of open here. The reason why is because I want this press and seal to wrap around the transmitter at the end. You'll see what I'm talking about here in a second. So I'm continuing to wrap this around more and more taut. Right here, we're near the end. I'm going to give it a little bit of a twist. And press and seal will hold itself just like that. Now, just because this end isn't sealed at all, but just because I want to fully show you how this is going to work. Now, you could, if you really wanted to, trust that, but I'm not going to. Instead, what I'm going to do is cut off a piece of press and seal that's only about 4 or 5 inches. And then I'm going to wrap that around the end of the transmitter. Now, doing this is great because it's going to hold this solid and around it. That little end that we wrapped around upon itself, it's going to hold. Now you may say, you've referred to it a couple of times, what do you mean by rescue tape? Silicone tape, rescue tape, it all has this exact same purpose and name. And I'm putting links in the description if you'd like to check out any of these particular rescue tapes that I use. But silicone tape is better than adhesive tapes because it does not have adhesive. The stronger you press it, the better it will seal. So if you wanted to seal to something like this XLR connector up here, then I'm going to simply grab the rescue tape again, and I keep calling it rescue tape because that's a very common thing to call it, in the film industry at least. But it is basically silicone tape. I'm going to wrap this around. And again, don't necessarily be sparing with it because you want it to have a good seal. I'm going to wrap it up. Here, I'm going to cut off a little piece of this. Now I'll use this. I'm going to wrap this up the connector, going at least over the end of the boot of the XLR connector before reversing directions. Now doing this is going to assure that I have a good seal all the way up to the very, very end, and then I'm basically second layering this particular area right here with the rescue tape. So now I'm going to continue on around, and you're still hearing my audio, aren't you? You're hearing it because this technique is hopefully going to work and not my memory card will not get corrupt. Now this right here is enough to completely seal this transmitter. Now if you don't believe me, that's why I have this water here. I'm going to toss this inside of here, and as long as you still hear the audio, that means that file is intact and you don't hear the connector leaking water in there. That's a good sign too. So let's go ahead and show you how you would seal the XLR connector. So now there's going to be 2 points of issue with regards to water potential entry. Now you can use the press and seal the same kind of way, but instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you if you just wrapped it with the rescue tape. And for this I'm going to use the 2-inch version, and I'll leave the plastic on the outside. I'm going to basically double the amount of length that I need for that one connector and cut off that piece. Now rescue tape, remember, does not have an adhesive on it, so it doesn't matter if it gets rained on or wet while you're putting it on there. It does not matter one bit, because it's still going to seal. Plumbers use this, as a matter of fact, or can use this if they'd like to seal something. And medical personnel definitely do it. That's why it's referred to as rescue tape. So here we go, wrapping this around. I'm going to pull off a little bit of this as I go. And you want to be careful as you get near the middle, because if you press too hard right here over this button, your XLR connector could release, and you don't want that to happen. Now the rescue tape is now folded upon itself. That's not good. Let's see if I can salvage this a little bit. Okay, so we'll go around here one more time. Hopefully I haven't pressed this too hard, and looks like I was able to salvage it. That's good. We'll go around this a little bit, and notice it's only barely connecting on over here. Well, I'm so confident in it, I'm going to show you how just that little bit holding on is enough. Continuing on around past the connector, and we're here at the very, very end. Now it's overlapping, and you want to verify that it's wrapped around itself and overlapping. And let the truth be known, I did a pretty sloppy job of it, because it was, you know, I'm actually doing this pretty close to 2 feet over the ground. I'm leaning way over, so I know what you're thinking. Excuses, excuses. But to show you at least it did work, there's this connector inside next to the transmitter. There's the entire cable submerged in water, and there I go, completely drenching my table again, which is one of the reasons why I have an extra paper towel. Now hopefully I can use this and clean off the table enough so that you will believe me when I say that the transmitter is just fine. But let's go ahead and see if I can keep that in there without drenching it yet again. Okay, now you may look at this and say, go at it with scissors. You can, and that does work, but let the truth be known, it's a little bit more of a chore than it would be if you were using something like a seam ripper that a seamstress would use. It has a little bitty sharp point on it, so be careful and only go away from yourself. Slide it right along the inside of the rescue tape and press straight up, and it will cut the rescue tape. Now, if your cable has a bit of a boot on it down here, you want to be careful to go away from the boot, so that way you're not going to snag it coming back this way. So that's one little pro tip for you also. This is pretty well done on this end. Now we need to break the seal over here. There we go. That is completely broken. Now the press and seal itself is probably done a pretty good job. Now we just need to unpress it and unseal it. And we'll see how well this worked. Remember, my paper towel was completely dry when I put it on there, with the exception of a couple little water droplets. Let's see if I can keep the rescue tape off of it, because there you go. Paper towel is still dry. So I'll use it to clean up the water over here. Transmitter's still recording, and it's actually a recorder too, so you know, if you haven't seen my review of the Deity HD-TX, you'll see that it's working just fine. To get the rescue tape off of the connector, what I'll usually do is look for the button, and it's right there. And I will dig the end of the seam ripper right in there. There's the connector's release button right there. The reason I start there is because it sticks out just a little bit, and it gives me enough room to put the seam ripper in. Now remember, as you go down, you want to verify that you are not going against this boot, because if you do, you could hook the end of it. Come on now. You can probably get better seam rippers than this one. But if you go back this way, you're going to potentially hook that area right there. But if you go away from you could very easily rip the seam all the way down the boot without getting it caught on anything. So there we go. That end is almost done. Here we go. It's completely released as soon as I do that right there. And hopefully I can do it without... Okay, there we go. That is completely off of there now. Now, I will reverse the direction of this because I don't want to push back on it on myself. And I'll do the exact same thing. Geez, I can't hold it for anything. As I kind of started to mention before, I have this normally when I'm working on something like this at about 4 feet off the ground, which is way up here. And you're seeing my knees practically because it's so low and I'm bending over just so that way it works for the camera. So it's not the best angle for me. That's why I've been a little clumsy in this video. But there's the connector completely done, and there you go. So there you have it, protecting your precious gear against spills and even complete submerges in water in a very form-fitting manner. So thank you for tuning into this episode of Sound Speeds, and be sure to tune in the future for more wonderful tips that will save your gear and sound advice.
Have a question you'd like answered or want to add something? Be sure to write it in the comment section down below. You can also make a suggestion for future topics of discussion. Again, comment section down below, or you can email me at soundspeeds@yahoo.com. Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss out on future sound advice.